1 second. Gonna start the live stream. All right. Joe, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, you want to count me in?
1, 2, 3.
It's supposed to be 3, 2, 1, but it's okay. I'll take it. Hey, everybody.
Listen, it's gonna be a long day.
Hey, everybody. My name is Joe Cap. I'm co-chair of National Entrepreneurship Week. National Entrepreneurship Week is a congressionally chartered annual event to support and uplift America's entrepreneurs and America's new business startups. Originally founded in 2006, National Entrepreneurship Week takes place every year during the third week of February. In 2016, Amber and I relaunched National Entrepreneurship Week, and now all across America, from Maui to Miami to Maine and everywhere in between, America's entrepreneurial ecosystem is vibrant and thriving. I am super excited to go ahead and introduce co-chair Amber Ravenscroft. Amber, hi.
Hi, thanks, Joe. We're really excited. We're on our third office hour today, and they just continue to share such great resources and opportunities at the federal level. So before we dive in and we throw it over to Eileen with the Department of Energy, we are going to just do a couple housekeeping pieces. As you go through the presentation today, if you have any questions, please be sure to use the Q&A function. We will be reviewing those and facilitating conversation with Eileen at the end of the session. So please use that function, and we will go ahead and throw it over to you, Eileen, to share your slides and kick us off with an introductory presentation.
Thank you. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm going to give a quick 15-minute overview of the Department of Energy's SBIR, STTR programs, but I wanted to kick it off by making everybody aware that there are 11 agencies that offer SBIR, STTR programs, and they are funding technology development that's consistent with their mission. I generally recommend to entrepreneurs that they maybe want to focus on more than just one agency. You don't want to spread yourself too thin, but pick a couple. There's there's overlap in terms of what the agencies fund, and you'd be surprised at what some of the agencies are funding. And I do find that there's a lot of overlap between what our entrepreneurs and some of the other agencies. The SBIR program provides over $4 billion per year to entrepreneurs who are developing technology. Okay, now I'm going back to just specifically about DOE. We are the third largest agency. We provide grants in excess of $300 million a year. Grants are different than contracts. You should probably get to know a little to kind of familiarize yourself with the difference. And one of the differences is that we are giving you money to develop your technology and take it to the commercial marketplace. DOE is not going to be your customer at the end of the day. We are paying you to develop some really cool new technology that's consistent with our mission. Our mission is threefold, as it's shown on the slide, but you do have to be thinking about where your money is going to come from when the SBIR dollars go away. And you do want to always be thinking about your future cash flow and who your customers are going to be. We have a threefold mission. We provide leadership in clean energy, technology development, but we also, which is something people are very familiar with, but we also are tasked with advancing the understanding of energy and engineering sciences. And that means that we fund a lot of topics in instrumentation and more. Finally, the third part of the DOE's mission is enhancement of nuclear security. So that means we fund topics on detection of nuclear activity in the world, as well as the cleanup of the nation's nuclear weapons waste sites. We have topics that are more wide-ranging than you would expect. We have 2 phase 1 solicitations per year. The dates you need to remember are July and November when our topics come out. One of the unique aspects of our program is that 6 weeks after the funding opportunity announcement comes out, a letter of intent is required in order to submit your phase 1 application. Finally, very importantly, we offer an expansive application assistance program. We call it Phase 0, and you do receive a coach. It is free to you for first-timers only to help you put together your first DOE, SBIR, STTR application. This is how our funding works. It's very similar to other agencies. In the interest of time, I won't go into too much detail, but the entry point is to submit a phase 1 application to our program in response to our phase 1 solicitation. If you receive a phase 1 award, then you are eligible to submit a phase 2 application, which is a much bigger award. Phase 1 is the proof of concept, a feasibility study of your idea, your early stage idea. Phase 2 is more around developing your prototype, demonstrating your technology, and really pivoting towards the commercialization activity. If you do need more R&D at the end of phase 2 to complete your technology development, we have second phase 2 awards and third phase 2 awards. Again, as I mentioned, we have 2 releases a year. These are the days you need to mark your calendar. July 15th, we have these 6 program offices. The program offices themselves are the technology specialists, and they formulate the topics. They put together the topics and release it on July 15th. These 6 offices, if you look at the name of them, these are more around our basic energy and engineering sciences. These are kind of more our deep science topics. November 12th, another very important day, we issue topics. These 7 green offices release topics, and these are more applied topics. You can see these are more about advancing nuclear energy, better use of fossil energy, carbon capture sequestration, the grid, cybersecurity, and more. In the energy efficiency and renewable energy offices, all the things that people probably associate with DOE, solar, wind, fuel cells, hydrogen technology, and improving buildings and more, batteries as well. I'm not going to go too much into detail with this slide, but I'm just trying to emphasize that we fund a lot of stuff. You're not going to really know what we are funding unless you take a deep dive. You open our topics documents on the day they are released, take a deep dive, do a keyword search of the technology area you're developing, and see if you can respond to any of the topics that are in there. You can be responsive, you can solve the problem or the need that is identified in the topic. So again, I've already talked about our releases coming up. This is our funding opportunities page. I consider it's kind of like a boring page. It's like a table, but it has a lot of really good information. When the topics are released in this sort of blank square here, the topics document will be clickable and show up in this square. You can apply for our application assistance program from this page on the day the topics come out. You can't enroll in our application assistance program until you know what you're going to do, and that requires the topics to be released. That can be a point of confusion. The funding, we have a topic webinar. You can register from it on this page. The funding opportunity announcement comes out on this page. There's a funding opportunity announcement webinar, and we talk about how to apply. The letters of intent, which I already mentioned, their due date is on this page, and the full application due date, as well as the schedule for award notification and grant start date. So this is a critical page for applicants to our program. And yeah, I can see I have these pop-ups that I forgot about. These are the critical deadlines that I want to mention. And the links for the webinars are on this page, very importantly. This is what one of our topics looks like. An example of this blue table at the top is very important. The maximum phase 1 award. Don't ask for more than the maximum phase 1 amount, because your application will be unfortunately declined without review. I'm going to mention the difference between SBIR and STTR in a subsequent slide, but do make sure that you're applying for an SBI. If you're applying for an SBIR award, make sure that it's accepting those awards. If those applications, if you're applying for an STTR award, make sure it's accepting those as well. You want to read the topic very carefully, and the subtopic as well. There are subtopics associated with it. So carefully read the topics. You are expected to be an expert in your technology area. There are a number of references in each of the topics document, and you want to make sure you read all those references. And you can communicate with the DOE program manager. They are listed in the topics, and you really want to limit your conversation to understanding the scope of what it is that they're looking for. What makes, very important question, what makes a competitive application? About 20% of our phase 1 applications are funded. So you want to make sure that you have your eye on what it takes to create a technically meritorious application. Number one, you must be responsive to the topic and subtopic. You must be addressing what they are asking for. That's kind of your go, no go decision when the topics come out. If you feel like it's the basis for, it is the basis for creating a competitive application. So you must really think about responding to the topic and subtopic. Additionally, your idea must be novel. It must be something that nobody else has accomplished or attempted. It must be research and development that you're doing. You must be an expert in your area, or the PI principal investigator must be an expert in the area. And you do have to have the team has to be composed of the right expertise to carry out your phase 1 feasibility assessment. The potential impact of your technology development, if the R&D is successful, is important. Finally, we have a new technical review criteria. We do require a 1-page write-up on what your company is doing to promote inclusive and equitable research as part of the research plan. The first top 3 green rectangles are of equally weighted and are greater weight than the 4th criteria. Just quickly, I'm going to mention SBIR versus STTR. There's different level of effort requirements for phase 1. The small business must do 67% of the R&D. Recognizing that you may need subcontractors to do parts of your work, you can have up to 1/3 of your budget be going to subcontractors. For STTR, the small business must do a minimum of 40% of the R&D, and a nonprofit research institution is required as part of the STTR application, and they must do a minimum of 30% of the R&D, with the remainder being available for either a subcontractor or the small business or the research institution. The PI for STTR can be an employee of either the small business or the research institution. For SBIR, the small business, the principal investigator must be an employee of the small business. So there's different requirements to make sure you understand that. We do have a workbook which you can check compliance with the 2 programs. And if you do fulfill the requirements of both, you can submit the same application to both programs if your topic is accepting applications to both programs. Note that the award always goes to the small business. Okay, I mentioned our Phase 0 Application Assistance Program. It's very important. If you are a first-timer to our program, you can enroll and have a coach help you put together the details of your application. We have a new application guide, which has a ton of great resources available, samples, templates, step-by-step guidance on putting your application together. You can always email us with questions about the programs and applications. You should be on our mailing list if you're interested in our program, and you should follow us on LinkedIn and X. I wanted to give a shout out to our new SBIR partnering platform. You don't have to either be an applicant or an awardee, but you can register on our site as an innovator. You can search and find potential partners, funding opportunities, and you can meet other innovators on this site. So I recommend checking that out. So anyway, we have a number of resources available, applicant resources that I've already spoken about. And if you become an awardee, there are a number of programs that become available to you and that are focused on achieving commercialization success. We also have high performance computing resources available to awardees. And I want to getting close to the end of my presentation, I want to mention that we do have a number of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. You can see by this graph on the left-hand side that we are working on tracking how we are doing in this area to women-owned small businesses and socially and economically disadvantaged small businesses. We are slowly improving in this area over time. We're always looking for ways to elevate awareness to underrepresented founders. And I will mention that it is one of the directives. SBIR is unique in that we have a directive written in statute to foster and encourage participation by underrepresented groups in the SBIR and STTR programs. I have this slide on take the next steps, things you can do now to get ready, to be prepared to prepare your first SBIR, STTR application. So there's a number of suggestions here on this slide. And anyway, I will close by saying, please ask us for help. If you want a 15-minute one-on-one with me, I would be happy to do that, to answer your questions about the programs. And with that said, this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions.
Eileen, this is chock full of information. Thank you so much. You know, you brought up something that's actually really interesting that I don't think we've necessarily hit on too much before, but you said something about the ecosystem of other people who are kind of working on the grants. You guys, other entrepreneurs, other folks. Can you just lean into that just a little bit?
The partnership you're talking,
yeah,
the partnering site?
Yeah, the partnering piece, because I think, you know, we talk about so many different aspects of SBIR. And in the last one, we leaned into a lot with the federal labs. We had so many conversations about the scientists and being able to access the scientists, which is huge. But there's actually something in here embedded in what you said, Eileen, which is this partnership piece, and that there's an opportunity to network with like-minded people who are working on adjacent technologies or potential other businesses. And I'm just curious, can you just share a little bit more about that partnership piece? Amber and I know this piece really well, and the partnerships are super important.
The partnerships are very important. And as a matter of fact, I think the statistics are something like if you are partnering as an entrepreneur, you are 50% more likely to achieve commercial success. So who do you need? Who do you need to meet? Like, and as we know, there's a continuum. You have your early stage idea. And at that point, you may need like consultants, subject matter experts. You might need material test companies. You might need engineering design companies. And then you develop your prototype and you're demonstrating your technology. So you're looking maybe at that point to have potential customers who maybe want to test your technology. And then as you move later down the continuum, you're potentially interested in meeting angel investors, venture capital, large OEMs that might want to license your technology or even purchase your small business. So our partnering site is focused on meeting all of those people. So you can go to the site, you can search for who has signed up, what they're, and you can reach out to them on the site and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Do you have any interest in, meeting and hearing more about our technology? And it's a site that's designed to create collisions and improve the partnering aspect for our And again, you don't have to be an applicant or an awardee. We're interested in supporting the whole ecosystem. And so the partnering site offers that opportunity. There are opportunities on our website also to reach out to people at the national labs. So have people mentioned the labpartnering.org site? That
They didn't mention that one in particular, but we did go into a lot of different things with regards to, the national labs. You mentioned something, and I want to kind of just explain that, because us in entrepreneurial ecosystem communities and that do a lot around entrepreneurship and helping start business, you use the word collisions. And what can you just explain what you mean by that? Because I want to make sure some people who might be seeing this for the first time might not necessarily know, but I know what it is. What does it mean, Eileen, when you say collision?
It means being in the right place at the right time, and meeting someone who needs your technology or is interested in your technology or has a synergy in some way that's going to help you propel your either the performance of your technology. They know what sort of the metrics might be. They might know specific other customers that need what you're doing. And you just want to maximize those interchanges so that you can be in the right place at the right time. And there are so many stories. I don't have one off the top of my head, but there are so many stories about entrepreneurs that were successful. And they said, if I hadn't met this person at this time, and
Sure.
we live in a world now where we're trying to create more remote collisions. Like
Sure.
Silicon Valley is an example of a place where there's probably a lot more like in-person collisions, but there's no real reason why it can't be virtual as well. And that's what we're trying to do with our partnering page.
Absolutely. And actually embedded in that is the question that we have from Kim Zirk, which is specifically about, and Amber, I'll throw it to you after this, but one of the things that you said in your comment was about partnerships leading to potential customers. And so the question that she has is, does participation in the SBIR STTR program provide resources to help with customer identification and acquisition? I'm going to let you answer that. And then I want to go ahead and throw probably an additional response to that after you're done.
I mentioned, I only have 15 minutes, but I mentioned that once you're an awardee, there are a number of programs that become available to you. And really there are two big ones and a third as well. But number one is a program called Technical and Business Assistance. We call it TABA. As a phase one awardee, you get you can spend $6,500 on external consultants that will help you with your commercialization strategy. And it's not a lot of money. It goes fast. And basically what the phase one awardees do is use that $6,500 to develop their phase two commercialization plan. So you're really developing your commercialization plan rather than executing commercialization in phase one. Again, if you're a phase one awardee, you can enroll in what we call I-Core. I don't know if people have heard of I-Core. We call it Phase Shift. We have rebranded it. But that is an intensive customer discovery program, and you are required to interview 30 potential customers as part of that program. So if you become a phase one awardee, I encourage you to sign up for our Phase Shift program. And now NSF has I-Core available for non-awardees, and I recommend that people look into the NSF I-Core program.
National Science Foundation.
National Science Foundation. And if you become a phase two awardee, you get $50,000 in TABA to execute your commercialization plan. And that can be going to conferences, to meet potential customers, more additional customer discovery, preparing to pitch, how to license your technology, all of those things, manufacturing, partnering, problem solving. So there really are significant resources, and our PI meeting, principal investigator meeting for awardees, is also very focused on investor panels, commercialization strategy, etc. A lot of panels with great advice on in those topics on licensing, meeting investors, etc. So,
well, Amber, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying there are a number of resources available, and a lot of these resources are relatively new. I think the SBIR program has gotten a little bit more on the ball when it comes to supporting our awardees in terms of commercialization.
Well, I'm going to throw over to you, Amber, in just a second, but I do want to go ahead and respond to Kim's question in a little bit more of a direct way. That's not necessarily a government response in terms of at the end of the day, entrepreneurs, we as entrepreneurs, I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs all across the globe. And at the end of the day, our job is actually on that customer identification and acquisition. And so, Kim, speaking to you and anyone else who's listening here, while the network within the federal government has a wonderful opportunity to introduce potential customers, it's our job as entrepreneurs to identify the customers and, frankly, just customer discovery, figuring out who they are, what is the total addressable market. What are the various markets? What are the channels that you're going to use? I would encourage you, even before you do some of these programs, there's a lot of free resources online that talk about customer discovery. Review those YouTube programs and videos, because at the end of the day, when you come to the table and meet with somebody like Eileen, and you have a clear idea of who your customer is, man, she's going to be able to go ahead and point you in a direction and be much more effective of potential customers. And not just Eileen, all of the Amber and I are super fortunate. We get to work with all these various federal government agencies, and they tell us all the time how they're helping individual entrepreneurs, pointing them in various directions of people that they ought to think about, partner with, meet. And that's the wonderful thing about National Entrepreneurship Week, is that we get the opportunity to be able to see how these links are created and how to network. So to Kim and any other entrepreneur that's listening, part of do you have a 50-50 job? One, it's develop your widget. And then the second is to figure out who you're going to sell it to, and then come to Eileen and other folks at the government and say, hey, here's my customer, here's my target customer. What do you think of that? And do you know anybody who looks like that? So I think that's a really important piece that you highlight, Eileen.
Yeah, and on my last slide, I'm encouraging you to ask questions. We have a tech to market manager. Her name is Carol Rabke. She would be happy if she focuses on partnering. She developed this partnering platform that I've been talking about. She'd be happy to talk to you if you have questions about partnering, how to approach it, what your needs are. She'd be a great resource for pointing you in a direction. I'm going to put her email in the chat.
That'd be great. And I think, Eileen, a big part of what we're trying to do with this is make sure that folks know that the federal agencies are so accessible and willing to speak to you and give you that opportunity for feedback. I do have a question, because this is probably more related to like phase 0 and phase 1. This is really focused on research and development. So like, what level do they have to prove that the technology that they are proposing, or do they have to prove right away that the technology already works? Or like, can they have an idea that is technically possible, but they might not have had the resources to fully bring that to life yet? Like, is there a threshold for?
You're talking about a phase 1 study?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is an early stage idea. That is the space that the government wants to operate in, because if it is a proven idea, then, you don't necessarily need the government. You could probably go to a venture capital company and sell your, have them support you or whatever. But no, we want to operate in this early stage. You can have an idea in your head. Phase 1 is a feasibility proof of concept study. So absolutely, it does not need to be proven. We understand that R&D is R&D, and it might be feasible or it might not be at the end of the day, but that we are giving you money to prove that in either direction. We don't want you to come and say with a grant and say, this works, I need money to scale up this my operation. That's not what SBIR is for. You can go out and get a loan for scaling up your technology development. And the other thing is, you can be in every agency is a little bit different. Like National Science Foundation, they want early stage ideas and early stage companies as well. We're agnostic about the stage of the company. The company can have other technology that it's developed. It could have been around for a long time, but we fund early stage ideas. And finally, you can have a developed technology and submit a phase 1 application, but it has to be R&D to pivot it, to make it do something new, make it do something different, address a new problem, address a new need as well. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a technology that's not useful in for another application. But you do need to couch your phase 1 application as a proof of concept. something that you're trying to get your technology to do.
And for a successful phase one, it needs to be based in something that could potentially work if you have that R&D opportunity. Like,
That's
I guess
right.
you mentioned like the expertise, and they have to have expertise in that area. So it's an early stage idea, but they need to have proven expertise in that area and some science or logic to back it up.
Yeah. There does have to be science, and a lot of stuff does come out of basic science, your background. And you may have some preliminary data, and you may have done some basic R&D around the concept, but what you're taking some like lab data or some lab concept or some theoretical concept and trying to take it and develop it into a commercial product. I just recently did a success story on a company that developed a low temperature plasma process. And it was for just like general material processing, because plasmas are generally, material processing operations are generally high temperature. And you can imagine there's a energy benefit of having lowering the temperature of that process. And then
I'm sorry, Eileen, I'm sorry. Like, no, I can't imagine that. Okay. The whole plasma thing. Woo. Okay. I just want to be clear. I'm not going to pretend and smile like okay, but continue. But I just don't want to, like, I do not know what you're talking about. Oh, actually, Amber and I were chatting about plasma
going
earlier.
from doing something at high temperature versus doing something at low temperature, there's energy savings that to be realized there.
Gotcha.
And they figured out, so they did all this R&D in the laboratory, and it was in Princeton, at Princeton University. And then they sat down and said, what can we do with this? And they figured out that they could recycle spent batteries with it. They could use the lower temperature process to recycle certain components of batteries. And so that's a really good example of taking something out of the lab, saying, okay, this is what we're going to take this and put it into practical application.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's amazing. I think, well, first of all, Amber and I last week were chatting about plasma and the different temperature settings for that. So this is a timely topic for us.
And I don't want to scare people off, because that sounds really sciencey. I know, there are, you can have a good idea for an economical window, for example. There's a lot of really practical topics that we fund as well too. Like, we're interested in providing energy efficiency for economically distressed communities, for example. So you have an idea of a low cost window that people that don't have a lot of economic resources can install, save money, and have more comfortable environment.
And it is interesting to me, the array of things that take place over at the Department of Energy, because they're really, really, you had put up that slide earlier. And every year we have the opportunity to talk with you in Department of Energy. We're always blown away, but just the breadth of the various technologies and the various programs. And so for anybody who's listening, I would encourage you to check out the website, because you may not necessarily think Department of Energy as a place to go to, but one of the things when I was working in West Virginia, and some of the work there on chicken manure as a potential source of chicken waste, as a potential source of energy, there was a lot of conversations about working potentially with the Department of Energy and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It really, really runs the gamut. The other thing that I heard you said, and I want to pull this nugget out as well, is that for anybody who's applying to work in any capacity with the government, it is super, super important to read the details of whatever it is that you're going to be applying for. Because in that, if you don't follow it, and one of the things you said, Eileen, is that if you don't fill out this correctly, it's going to be automatically disregarded as an application. And so basic stuff, make sure you fill out the applications for any of the programs in accordance with the directions, and don't give more. Make sure you're completing that. So if it says $200,000 is the limit, don't ask for $201,000, because immediately that's going to go ahead and get dismissed out of course, no matter how good your technology is. And I just want to lean into that, because I've seen in the past where people may be looking at these applications and they go ahead and don't necessarily address either the topic or the funding, or fill it out in a way that just precludes them from actually potentially getting funding.
That's right. Read the FOA. Read the funding opportunity announcement. It's not a fun document to read. Some awardee once said you should sleep with it, like get to know it really intimately. And I think that's really good advice. Put it under your pillow, and I mean, you have to read it too. But yeah, read the instructions. We offer a lot of webinars. We offer 7 webinars on the application process after our topics open. You have 3 months. The topics open, 3 months later, application is due. We have 7 Ask Us Anything webinars, and we cover an aspect of the application process, a few minutes at the beginning, and then you can ask questions. You should go to our funding opportunity announcement webinar, which comes after the funding opportunity announcement comes out. You should go to the topics webinar. The technical managers are talking about the topics and what they're looking for. So webinars are very helpful, I think, to get you oriented and understand what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I did see a question on I don't know if it seems like it disappeared, but it was about submitting multiple applications.
Yeah, so we do have a question.
That's a good question, yeah.
Yeah, can somebody submit an SBIR, STTR grant to multiple, because there are several agencies that do this, to multiple agencies for the same technology, like within the same year or within the same, could they come to your program and submit, and then also do the NSF broader submission? So
yeah, and so I guess there's 2 questions here. One is, you can submit the same R&D to NSF and to DOE, or even within a solicitation. Maybe you're doing the same R&D for topic, 15A, but it happens to also 18B. The same R&D is required. You may submit multiple applications to do the same work, but you cannot accept 2 awards to do the same work, because that is getting paid twice to do the same research and development, and that's against the law. So if you're lucky to receive 2 awards, you either have to decline 1 award, but in some cases, if there's just sort of an overlap, you might have to reduce the size of 1 award to account for the overlap in R&D. So yes, you can submit the same R&D to different agencies, to the same agencies, but you have to be transparent if you receive multiple awards.
No double dipping. No double dipping.
Yeah.
I have maybe a follow-up question, Eileen. If they have different types of R&D, if they have different types of research focus, could you secure, can you only receive 1 SBIR grant?
Yeah, that was the other question, right?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. You can have multiple awards at the same time. There's no issue with that. And even within one of our funding opportunity announcements, we allow a company to submit up to 10 applications, which I don't recommend that if you're a very small company, because it's way too much work. But in theory, a company can receive 10 awards from DOE in a single solicitation, if you had 100% success rate.
And listen, I know that you said earlier that the technology, this is for really early stage technology, but it also has to pass a sniff test, right? Like at the end of the day, there has to be some level, which is why the application, because the government has to make sure that they are judicious stewards of money that they're handing out. So it can't just be just an idea. There's got to be a little bit more to it than just a random idea. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to use science to lay out your idea and why you think it would work. And obviously you need expertise. You need a scientific engineering, computer science background to be able to lay out the technical aspect. I mean, research and development is a technical process, and it does require expertise to conduct R&D. So you do have to convince the reviewers that your idea has a technical basis, 100%. Very important. And if you do have any preliminary data that supports that, you should include it in your application.
So for one of the things that for people who may not necessarily, they might have an idea, they might have a little bit of technical experience. They're not experts like the way that I am with plasma. Maybe there's opportunities for them to go to their university. And that's actually one of the ways that we worked with at the community college was with a lot of the farmers and growers who had ideas to go to the university, local community college, and collaborate with them, because in many ways you guys work with a lot of different colleges and universities across the United States. And so people who are listening, they may be like, well, I don't have that technical expertise, maybe I shouldn't be going down this path. That's on the one hand, but the other hand is that there is an opportunity to be able to partner with colleges and universities, and more of them are getting into the entrepreneurial environment and ecosystems to help. Can you just say a little bit of how you guys might work with colleges and universities?
Well, I mean, we have, the reason is when I showed the SBIR and STTR slide, there's room in the budget for the nonprofit research institution, which can include a university. But take note, the award goes to the small business. And like in the case of SBIR, the small business has to do 67% of the R&D. So a lot of the expertise does have to reside in the small business. But the academic institution can absolutely be providing support, research, maybe equipment. Maybe they have a good lab that's critical for some of the experiments that need to be done, or some computer modeling expertise for the calculations that need to be done. So you do want to use the research institutions to the extent that you need it to conduct your R&D, but make no mistake about it, it is R&D. And if you have a good idea and you don't have the expertise, you really should find that person who is an expert. Maybe you'd be better off at being the business official and finding the scientist or the engineer that could be the principal investigator, because the principal investigator does need to be able to understand and direct the research and development.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it goes back to that conversation that we had earlier about partnering. Well, Eileen, it's always so much fun to have you in the Department of Energy. Amber, I don't know if you have any other questions.
No, I think this has been really helpful and provided a lot of amazing resources and follow-up. So Eileen, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate that opportunity to showcase what the Department of Energy is doing with SBIR, STTR.
All right. And Amber, we're going to go ahead and raise a glass to plasma. Thank you so much, Eileen, for joining us again.
Thank you.
It's been great, and we really appreciate it, and appreciate all of the expertise that you bring. The Department of Energy, anybody who's listening, has a wealth of grants and a wealth of opportunities. Eileen put her contact information as well as one of her colleagues. They're here to help support you. And so, Eileen, thanks for all your hard work for entrepreneurs that you do throughout the year.
All right. Bye, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
For anybody that's on, the next one will be kicking off right at 1 o'clock, and we will be talking SBIR, STTR with NASA. So we look forward to seeing you. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and we'll catch you at 1 o'clock on the dot. Thank you.